What if one book could erase a prince from royal history forever? Not sideline him. Not embarrass him. 7 minutes ago, the palace stopped whispering. But before we continue, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for updates. For years, the royal strategy around Prince Harry was silence. No rebuttals, no direct warnings, no public threats. Let the storm pass. Let the headlines burn out. Let Harry speak, and eventually run out of things to say. But that strategy just collapsed. Because this time, the silence broke from the very top. And when King Charles III breaks silence, it is never emotional. It is never impulsive. It is calculated, measured, and final. Here's the part that should stop you cold. According to multiple insiders, the upcoming memoir Harry is allegedly preparing is not being treated as another tell-all. Not another his truth chapter. Not another emotional unloading. Inside palace walls, it's being framed as something far more dangerous, a direct challenge to the institution itself. Think about that for a moment. Harry has already spoken about his childhood, his trauma, his resentment, his grievances. The palace absorbed it, took the hit, paid the price, and moved on. So why now? Why would a book, still unpublished, still unseen by the public, trigger something as extreme as whispers of exile? Why would it provoke language so severe that insiders are using phrases like irreversible consequences and constitutional red lines? And here's the contradiction that makes this story explosive. Harry has always said he wants reconciliation, healing, honesty, yet the alleged response from the palace isn't emotional outrage. It's procedural, almost cold, almost administrative. As if this isn't about feelings at all, but about rules that have existed quietly for decades. Ask yourself this: if the monarchy has tolerated everything up to now, what exactly is in this memoir that crosses a line so serious it cannot be walked back? Sources suggest it isn't gossip. It isn't family drama. It isn't even personal accusations. It's something that, once printed, cannot be denied, reframed, or quietly ignored. And that's why this moment matters more than any interview, any documentary, or any headline before it. Because for the first time, the message Harry allegedly received wasn't, "Please reconsider." It was, "If you proceed, you choose your fate. No negotiations, no second chances. No half measures. Titles, status, remaining ties, gone." And here's the part most people are missing. Exile isn't about geography, it's about legitimacy. It's about being written out, not just of ceremonies, but of relevance. So what changed behind palace doors? Who decided the line had been crossed? And why are insiders saying Harry's reaction wasn't sadness, but rage? Because according to those close to the situation, what came next wasn't just a warning. It was a countdown. This wasn't just another book. That's the detail almost everyone keeps missing. When insiders describe the latest memoir Prince Harry is allegedly preparing, they don't use words like confessional or therapeutic. They use words like destabilizing, precedent-breaking, dangerous. And that should make you pause, because Harry has already said a lot. He's spoken about family arguments, private conversations, emotional wounds. He's criticized the system. He's questioned motives. He's embarrassed people who once protected him at all costs. So why didn't that trigger exile? Why wasn't that the line? Here's where the story turns. According to multiple palace-adjacent sources, this memoir isn't framed as a personal story at all. It's framed as documentation. Not "this is how I felt," but "this is what happened." Dates, decisions, chains of command. Moments that allegedly expose how power is exercised behind ceremonial smiles. That's a very different kind of threat. There's an old saying inside royal circles: emotions can be denied, but records cannot. Feelings are subjective, memories are messy. But when something is written with specificity, when it names processes instead of people, it stops being family drama and starts becoming something else entirely. Ask yourself this: why would a monarchy that has survived abdications, scandals, divorces, and decades of hostile press suddenly react this strongly to one more book? The answer insiders keep circling back to is simple and unsettling, because this one allegedly crosses from narrative into mechanism. Sources claim the concern isn't that Harry will insult the family again, it's that he might describe how decisions are made when cameras are off, how narratives are shaped, how silence is enforced, how certain outcomes are engineered without ever appearing forced. If that sounds abstract, let's make it real. A prince complaining about his childhood? That's sympathetic. A prince describing how institutional power quietly functions? That's combustible. This is where the contradiction becomes impossible to ignore. Harry says he wants transparency. The palace believes transparency in this case would cause damage that cannot be repaired. And damage isn't emotional here. It's structural. Behind closed doors, insiders reportedly began asking a chilling question. If this book is published, what precedent does it set for everyone else who leaves? Because once one insider documents the machinery, others follow. And that's why the response allegedly escalated so fast. Not after publication, not after excerpts. Before. The warning wasn't reactive. It was preemptive. Another surprising detail insiders have leaked is this. The language used wasn't framed as punishment. It was framed as consequence. Almost legalistic. As if the palace wasn't angry, but bracing. Think about how unsettling that is. No shouting, no emotional pleas. Just a clear message. Some lines, once crossed, trigger automatic outcomes. And exile in this context doesn't mean banishment in the dramatic sense. It means removal from the system entirely. No remaining privileges. No ceremonial ambiguity. No halfway status that allows continued leverage. Which raises the question no one wants to ask out loud. Did Harry misunderstand how much tolerance he had left? Or did he know exactly what he was risking and decide it was worth it? According to sources close to the situation, Harry didn't respond with fear. He responded with fury, a sense of betrayal, a belief that he was being silenced for telling the truth. But from the palace perspective, this wasn't about truth versus lies. It was about containment. And that's the moment everything shifted. Because once containment becomes the priority, reconciliation quietly leaves the room. Royal silence is not passive. That's the mistake outsiders always make. When the palace says nothing, it isn't because it has nothing to say. It's because silence itself is a tool, one sharpened over centuries, a way to let storms burn themselves out while the institution remains untouched. So when that silence breaks, even subtly, it's never accidental. And that's why this moment sent shockwaves through royal circles. Because what happened next wasn't a press release. It wasn't a dramatic public statement. It was something far more unsettling. A shift in tone that insiders immediately recognized as a warning shot. Here's the key thing to understand. In royal terms, breaking silence doesn't mean speaking loudly. It means signaling boundaries. Quietly. Precisely. In a way that leaves no room for misinterpretation among those who know how to read it. And according to multiple sources, that's exactly what happened here. Behind closed doors, the language reportedly changed. Conversations that once emphasized reconciliation began emphasizing responsibility. Where there had once been patience, there was now finality. Where there had been hope for compromise, there was now preparation. Ask yourself this. Why would a king, known for caution, restraint, and avoiding confrontation, allow even a hint of this kind of message to circulate? The answer insiders keep pointing to is brutally simple. Because at a certain level, this stops being about family and becomes about survival. Charles isn't just a father, he's a custodian of an institution that depends on continuity, legitimacy, and control of narrative. Every monarch inherits not just a crown, but an obligation to protect the framework that keeps it standing. And that obligation doesn't bend easily to personal emotion. Sources suggest that the message Harry received wasn't delivered as an ultimatum. It was delivered as an explanation, almost instructional, as if to say, this is how the system works, whether you agree with it or not. And that's where the irony cuts deepest. Harry has spent years arguing that the system is cold, unfeeling, and rigid. Now he's being confronted with exactly that rigidity, only this time it's aimed directly at him. Another surprising detail emerging from insiders is who wasn't involved. This wasn't a sprawling family debate. There were no drawn-out arguments, no back-and-forth negotiations, no emotional intervention from extended relatives. The decision-making circle was reportedly small, tight, controlled, which tells you something important. When institutions feel threatened, they don't crowdsource responses. They centralize them. And that's why this moment feels different from every clash before it. This wasn't reactive anger to a headline. It wasn't embarrassment over bad press. It wasn't even retaliation. It was risk management. And that reframes everything. From the palace's perspective, allowing a memoir that allegedly details internal mechanisms doesn't just damage reputations, it creates vulnerabilities. Legal vulnerabilities, political vulnerabilities, symbolic vulnerabilities.